I'm Chad Sanders at Chad Sand on Instagram. You know me as a TV writer, an author, a podcaster, a maker of things. All right. Now, today, this is called How to Script the Pilot for Your Vertical Series. This is about writing the pilot so that you can begin shooting your vertical series that is going to get you the attention of Hollywood so that you can have the career that you want, make your project, get your investment, move forward in the industry. All right. Now, there's a few things we need to do in the way of table setting. By the end of this episode, you will know prescriptively the steps to take to write the pilot, what you need to write into the pilot episode of your vertical series. All right. That is going to be most of this conversation. At the front of this, though, I want to talk about why you need to write a pilot or why you want to pilot your vertical series at all. Okay. Vertical series are an extremely hot topic in Hollywood right now. Across the industry, people want to build, to make, to invest in something that is small, that doesn't require a lot of resources to produce, so that they can test the audience for it. And if it's a hit, then they can pour more resources into it to make it bigger and bigger and bigger. All across the industry in Hollywood today, you're hearing people talk about how important it is for Hollywood right now, in a moment in the industry where the economics of the industry are messed up, how important it is for them to invest in Hollywood, studios, networks, independent producers, in stuff that already has an audience. They call that IP. Now, when most people hear intellectual property or IP in the way that Hollywood is investing in it, what they think about is books, for instance. Like you think about Judy Blume books, which are being adapted into Netflix series. You might think about something like Game of Thrones, which was adapted after it was a huge hit with a fiction audience. It was adapted into an 8 or 9 season, anthology, like a humongous TV series that everybody watched, right? But that's just one form of IP, okay? There are more unconventional forms of IP. For instance, a long Twitter thread was adapted into the movie Zola. For instance, a TikTok video that explodes or a series of TikTok videos that explodes could be adapted into IP for a network like Netflix or HBO Max or Hulu or whoever. Obviously, all the comic book character series, the big ones, the ones that have exploded. Many of those have been adapted into movies. But what's going to happen going forward in the near future is that this form of IP, which is vertical content series, including non-scripted stuff like what I do on my Instagram channel, which is basically just the Chad Show, and scripted stuff, which is like people who write a long dramatic series where every episode is just 90 seconds to 3 minutes long. That's another form of IP that people are going to invest in, that companies are going to invest in if someone first shows that there's an audience for it. And so what I'm going to talk about today is I've already shared a video with you about how you're going to launch your vertical series, okay? Because launching it independently on your own social platforms, in my opinion, is the best way to get it seen today, because you got to prove it has an audience before anybody's going to want to invest in it. But how do you make the thing, right? Meaning, I'm just going to share with you all, I am going to shoot episode 1 of my own vertical series next week. All right. And if you're watching this around the time that I publish this, that means, what day is that? January 22nd, 2026. I'm going to go shoot the first episode of my own vertical series, which I've written the script for, which you can find at the link in my bio on my Instagram at Chad Sand, which I casted by blasting it out to my Instagram following to see if there was someone out there who would be the right characters for it. Okay. So I've casted 2 people for it. I myself am going to play a small role in it. I'm going to shoot it on January 22nd, and then I'm going to edit it using Instagram's editing software and blast it out on all my channels: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, possibly LinkedIn, SMS, email, SMS, everywhere that I can reach people, okay? I want as many people as possible to see it so that if there's someone out there who can invest in it in a way to help it grow and help it reach more of the right audience and help me monetize it so that they'll find it, all right? So let's get to the nitty gritty. Okay. Now, just to open the hood a little bit on why would I even listen to this guy when it comes to writing a pilot, okay? I've sold several TV shows. I have written on two big network TV shows. One is Grownish on ABC Freeform. Another one is Rap Shit, which was on HBO Max. I've sold a number of movies. Obviously, I have 3 books that have been published. I had to sell 2 of those to a big publisher, Simon & Schuster. I've sold podcasts. I had an Audible original show, which I did a 6-figure deal for. I've sold a podcast independently. I've sold ads on a podcast that I produced myself. All right. For each of these projects, in order to get someone to invest in them in some way, to buy them, to buy my services, to work on them, etc., what I had to do was first put in front of them something that was clear and direct and showed exactly what the thing was going to be once it had their resources in it. Now, for pretty much the entire history of Hollywood until today, that thing that you were going to put in front of somebody to show them what the larger vision looked like has been a pilot, meaning a written TV pilot or like the first 15 pages of a script, something that is on the page that you write on Final Draft or Writer Duet, something that shows them in words. This is what it is. Now, the burden of reading has exhausted the industry and most of society because we've become so acclimated to these devices. So nobody wants to read scripts anymore. And so now today, the reason why the Kardashians and Netflix and Fox are all investing in companies that produce small micro dramas, right? Vertical series, is because the new way to show somebody a piece of something so they'll invest more money into it, even for us writers, is to make a small version of it that fits the phone that you can publish on social media so that everybody can see it and decide whether or not they want to get behind it. Now, when you used to pilot, what you wanted to do was write maybe 30 minutes, which is 30 pages for a comedy, or 60 minutes, which is 60 pages for a drama. And then you would go and take that out to an agent or a manager and try to get somebody to invest in it, right? Today, instead of having to go through the long, arduous process of writing for months or weeks or however long it takes you to write a pilot, what you're going to do is make one episode of your 60-second or 3-minute vertical series so that you can publish that directly to your social channels and prove that audience and continue to make more of it as it grows and grows in audience until you get access to that larger investment. So here's how you're going to script the pilot for your vertical series, okay? Exactly. Now, again, I told you can go to my Instagram at Chad Sand and download my script for my vertical series and watch it and read it yourself so you know exactly what it looks like. But I also want you to know the steps I took to decide first on the story that I wanted to tell with my vertical series and the thinking that went into that, as well as the exact beats in terms of what does it need in the story so that it has a chance to explode as a vertical series. So here we go. Now, start here, okay? What you're making, we're calling it a vertical series. I know we want the industry to look at it in the same way it would look at like a full scope TV drama or a TV series or comedy, something that you watch on TV, Stranger Things or something like that, right? But for now, what it's going to be, it's going to be a series of videos that pop up on your socials in front of an audience that's looking at your phone screen. And so we have to follow some of the principles that we know work for capturing the attention of someone on socials to get them to stay and watch a full video of 90 seconds to 3 minutes long. And so this is where we start, okay? In my script, you will see it opens with a couple getting into an Uber who are already in the middle of a very serious argument, okay? It's an argument about somebody who's not a part of the couple, who is draining one of the members of that couple for their energy, their time, their attention in a way that is potentially existentially threatening to the couple, right? Already what you have here is immediate action and conflict. That is what you're gonna need to have a chance to catch people's attention and stop their scroll on your vertical series. When you watch TV shows today, you will notice that more than ever in the previous 80 years of the Hollywood industry, or however long the industry's been around, The big bang at the beginning of an episode, the big thing that snaps you into the story, happens sooner today than it ever has ever before. A lot of times people open with a bedroom scene today because they're trying to grab your attention and keep your focus. Sometimes people open immediately with a murder or something intense, maybe traumatic, something that builds immediately the tension and conflict of the viewer so that you will stay locked in. In a vertical series, it has to happen even faster because our trigger finger, our twitch to move to the next thing on socials is even faster when you're swiping through stuff on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, etc. Right? So, immediate action and conflict. Next thing you need, quickly, you are going to have to establish the characters as the character or characters in your series as someone that the audience wants to invest in, okay? Which means you have to show them as human immediately. You have to show them as going through something relatable, all right? A couples fight is extremely relatable. We can all relate to knowing while you're in the middle of a moment that the rest of my night and the rest of our week is going to be ruined because we are having this fight. We are having this argument, right? Or for some people might think the rest of my night is going to be phenomenal because we're having this argument, because that's what some couples want and need to find themselves present with each other again in a way that makes the rest of their night better. I'll put it that way. So I have presented for you a couples fight where both of the characters are believable, are immersed in this tension and this conflict, and they are both rootable, meaning you can get behind rooting for either one of them. Neither one of them is the enemy. The enemy is the situation that they're in. That is a trick that a lot of writers use to keep you invested in characters, is to make all the characters you can root for, including in my story, the Uber driver, which is me, so that you are so invested in all of these conflicts and dynamics that you want to keep watching. All right, I'm going to move on to the next thing. You need tension to grab people's attention and hold on to it in your vertical series script, meaning you need visual tension and you need storytelling tension. You need written tension, okay? Or like tension on the screen. Tension between the characters. I just talked about the tension that is there for these characters in my script. And I'm using mine as an example so that I'm not just giving you theory, but giving you specific, what it is. In my story, this is story tension. The Uber driver wants something, which is that he wants to know if these people in the back of his Uber are the right passengers so he can move on and keep making money in his night. But the passengers in the back of his Uber who just got in, they are so much more invested in the argument that they're having that they're paying that Uber driver no attention. Which is to say, not only is there tension between the people in the back seat of this car, but there's also tension between the people in the back and the person in the front because they have competing ambitions. He wants to keep the night moving along. They don't want to do anything except pay attention to each other in the argument that they're having. That is story tension. That is story tension that can grab you quickly, immediately in a 90-second story, which means you don't need much longer than 2 or 3 minutes to tell this story. Now, the second thing I said was visual tension when it comes to tension, okay? Here's what visual tension looks like. There's not a lot of visual tension on this screen as I'm speaking right now, right? What you're basically looking at is my face prominently looking into the lens. I've tried to, put on something that I think has a bit of flair about it that will capture your attention, but there's just not a lot of like visual tension here. Here's what visual tension would look like. If somebody were right here approaching me from behind the screen, imagine them, right? If somebody were walking up behind me and I wasn't noticing them coming, and they either looked like they were about to tackle me or stab me or kiss me or grab, whatever the case may be, a bear approaching from behind me slowly would be phenomenal visual tension right now. Contrast in the colors creates a visual tension. Somebody who is driving not knowing that they're about to go off a bridge, that's visual tension. Tension literally means like it's something that is pulling in 2 different directions. That pulls on our attention. That keeps us focused. That keeps us invested. That removes everything else going on in our lives so that we're locked in here. That's what we're looking for in visual tension. And so in my pilot that I'm going to shoot next week, The visual tension that's going to be on the screen is, I'm going to be so honest, it is multifaceted, right? We are going to have characters of different races in the car. That creates tension. We are going to have characters who have who are dressed incredibly differently, right? An Uber driver and these rich people that just got in the back of his car, that creates a tension of class, okay? There's going to be the fact that the Uber driver's sitting in front and they are behind, which creates depth, which is another form of visual tension. You want to bring in as much visual tension and story tension as possible at once without crowding it so much that your audience can't even follow what's going. All right, that's what you're looking for in tension. Now, pace. You will notice in everything that I do, in speaking to you in these stories right here, on my Instagram, in my books, in everything that I do, right, artistically, creatively, I try to involve a sort of pace, which is that when the camera turns on, the train is already on the track and you are coming with us on the train. The train does not stop and slow down for people to get on. It is a train with momentum. It is a train with direction. It's going somewhere, which leaves you with a choice. Okay, this is another form of tension in storytelling. It leaves you with a choice. I'm on the train, I'm grabbing on and holding on as best I can, or I'm letting it go by me. Either one of those is phenomenal, right? I'm not looking for people to watch the first 20 seconds of my thing and then dip. I'm looking for people to either watch the whole 90 seconds to 30 to 3 minutes, of this vertical series pilot and then watch the next one and the next one and the next one, or I want them gone in the first 3 seconds. That's what I want. I want people invested or uninvested. I don't want people in the middle, okay? Pace for you in your script is going to look like this, all right? You might be thinking about all the 90 different things you could have these characters say to each other that would be funny or interesting to tell this story. But the truth of the matter is, in a 1.5 to 3 page script, you're gonna have maybe space for 10 to 15 lines of dialogue, maybe, which means everything said has to be economical. Nobody gets to do a long speech. This is not going to be something where you're not writing the prose that's going to get you, your Emmy or your Oscar in this vertical series, okay? This is not where you show everybody how, deep you are in dialogue and in prose. This is where you have 2 people set up, or multiple people, or 1 person set up in a situation where they have to get through that situation, and they're going to be economical. They're going to have as spare dialogue as possible to still make it make sense to the audience, to still compel them, but without going on a long diatribe that's going to take up a lot of space. You don't have that kind of space here. This is what you build to earn that kind of space over time with your audience, because you're going to have to publish multiple of these episodes over time in order to garner that attention to get the track that you want for this thing. But where it starts is in episode 1, in that pilot, your pace has to move, okay? The pace of action. Now, the pace of action does not mean that this thing needs to take place over multiple locations and you got to run down the street, you got to have a car chase. No, you are trying to make the best thing you can with the fewest resources possible, which is to say, in mine, I'm going to have 1 location, which is this car. I'm going to have 3 actors, me and 2 other people, okay? I'm not going to move locations. I'm not going to incorporate the environment around us. This is 1 scene, 1 moment shot in 1 location. That's it. But you can still incorporate a pace of action, not just in the writing and the dialogue, but in the writing of the character movement, how they relate to each other, how this person shifts away, how this person answers their phone, how this person looks down at the floor, a pace of action that shows people that this is a full meal, but after this episode's over, there's another episode. So don't crowd it with so much action, but keep it moving, all right? Nobody wants to go and stop and watch a quiet, slow. That's not how these algorithms work for these apps. That's not what's going to capture people's attention and hold it. What's going to capture their attention and hold it is if you jump right into a story, get through that story, and leave them with a cliffhanger with a tension of ending that's going to lead to the next story. I'm going to get back to that. Now, something to include in any scene that you write, but especially in a pilot for a vertical series, is misdirection. Meaning we think the story's going one way and it flips on its head and it goes another way. That keeps the viewer, that keeps their attention. That actually makes them rewind and go rewatch what they just watched to say, wait, is that what happened? The Red Wedding, which is very famous. It's a very famous episode or very famous moment in an episode in Game of Thrones where some key characters are killed off in the middle of a wedding when the audience does not see it coming in the least bit, right? It's famous because you're sitting in your chair thinking you know where everything's going, and all of a sudden it flips on its head and it goes the other way. You want to incorporate something like that in your vertical series. I'm going to give you another term that we use to describe this, and we often want to plant it at the end of something. The ending in writing your vertical series, the pilot, should be surprising and inevitable. Gross, 21:45. What does surprising and inevitable mean? It means that there's a misdirection, right? You never saw it coming, but inevitable means, but you should have seen it coming because it's true, because it's honest, because even though it's a surprise, it's not like, and then an elephant fell from the sky onto the Uber and the people inside of it, they died. That's not inevitable, okay? That's probably never happened. It probably never will happen. It's whimsical. It might be interesting for some kind of sci-fi piece or something like that if there's more story to be told there. But in truth, you don't want the misdirection to come in so hard into your episode that people then feel like, you pulled the rug out from under them in a way that didn't even make sense. You're going to lose the audience's trust that way. You're going to break the dream that way. But what can be inevitable, surprising and inevitable, here's the punchline of my series pilot, right? This couple gets in the back of the Uber. They have a 2.5-minute argument about this woman that the man cannot stop paying attention to. It's somebody from his past. It's someone who has hurt him deeply before, and he just cannot take himself out of that relationship the way he needs to invest in this relationship so that they can grow and move in the way that they both want to go, or at least that his wife wants them to go, or his girlfriend, whatever you want to consider her to be. It's not defined. The punchline of the episode, the final beat, is us learning as the audience that the person in question is his mom, okay? It's not a previous lover. It's not a previous girlfriend. It's his mom. It's relatable. It's funny. It's dark. It is surprising, and it is inevitable. When you reach that beat of the script, you feel it go through you because you're like, of course they're talking about his mom. You think back about the way they've been talking about her without naming her or what their relationship is, and you realize it was his mom all along. It was inevitable, okay? That's how you want this thing to end. Now, that also satisfies the story, the complete story of the first episode, but this is very important. The ending of your pilot script for your vertical series should satisfy, and it should build more tension for what's to follow, okay? Now, I think that beat alone builds more tension, but something that I am considering is that at the end of the episode, it will be at the very end, after you think the credits are about to roll and it's over, it will be that the Uber driver discovers the phone of one of the two people who has gotten out of the Uber, right? Which then begins the ensuing plot line that we're all familiar with, which is when you leave your phone in public transportation, and now either somebody who is a part of that public transportation, like an Uber driver, or you yourself has to go track down the other person to do this phone handoff. And that opens up a whole world of what else could this world be, all right? So, to review, here's everything that went into your script pilot for your vertical series pilot, okay? An immediate action and conflict at the top. A clearly presented character or characters. Tension, both visual tension and story tension. Pace, movement. Clarity, okay? That's something I need to say. I should have said it earlier. Visual and audio clarity. The way that you can see me right now and I look like I'm in cinema, and the way that you can hear me clearly. I don't have any fancy equipment on. I don't have a mic on. I don't have light. I'm sitting in front of a window. I don't have any special lighting. This is the sort of clarity, though, of visual and audio quality that you need to present to people to have the best chance for your thing to pop off. Now, all you need to do that is to have a pretty modern cell phone at this point, right? You don't need fancy equipment. If you want to shoot something at night, go get a $20 ring light from Amazon, get it in the right angles, use your car light, use street light. These cameras on the phones are incredibly sophisticated. You don't need anything better than that, all right? Clarity of visual and audio. Misdirection. Surprise people, take them on a journey. Don't show your hand as to where you're going. Set it up and move it. Surprising but inevitable ending that satisfies and builds tension at the same time and points to future episodes and questions. That is so key here. That is your call to action on these videos, which is you make the audience want to see more by building tension at the end of the episode. Point to in your story ending a very important question that the audience needs to have answered. All right. Now, outside of the scripting, in the actual writing of the scripting, here are some frameworks to keep in mind as you think about the story. What you have right now is an idea. We're going to get your idea from idea to concept by writing out the pilot for this script. From concept, you are then going to go shoot it and make it a reality. Okay. That's your product. That's what's going to allow somebody to actually pour their gasoline onto your fire so it can go boom. Now, before I go any further, if you want to spend an hour with me dissecting exactly how I'm going to build and launch my vertical series and how you can do the same for yourself, I want you to go, there's a link in this caption, the caption of this video, which you can go sign up right now for free to come and see me. I am giving a webinar this Friday, January 16th at 6 p.m. Eastern time called How to Launch Your Vertical Series, where I'm going to go step by step exactly how you're going to launch your vertical series, including the scripting of it. All right. And that's going to give you a chance to ask me questions live. That's going to give you a chance to say, oh, this is my concept. This is what I'm thinking of going with, as well as other people who are also going to be building vertical series. This is the time to do it. I wouldn't waste my time talking about it if it weren't the time to do it. So go to the caption of this video and sign up at the link, or you can go to my Instagram at Chad Sand. There's a link right there in my bio to go sign up. Now, let me give you to end this video. Let me give you the frameworks you want to consider while you're scripting, okay? If you're running your script through a series of questions, asking yourself, is this the right way to start my series? Remember this. Number one, the way that you start it for the foreseeable future is going to be how it has to continue. Meaning, if you spend $10,000 on your pilot episode, you better believe that it's going to be hard for you to pull off something the same way for less money than that, which is why I would encourage you to try to shoot your pilot episode for the smallest budget possible. Let it build audience before you go and think about how much more money you want invested into this thing. Let that be someone else's money after you've proven an audience for it. So be budget conscious in your scripting, okay? Be technology conscious. I already told you, you don't need fancy equipment. This is not where you're gonna win your Emmy. This is what's going to get you access to more resources so that you can eventually make the thing that's gonna win your Emmy. But for now, what you wanna do is show somebody how awesome of a story you can tell by making the least expensive version of it possible that's still good, okay? So be technology conscious. Do not go spend a bunch of money on expensive technology. You're gonna regret it because it's not gonna make your project better. It's just gonna make it different, all right? Be cast and location conscious. Don't try to cast 10 people for your vertical series, not for the pilot. Maybe over time, there are 10 characters incorporated as you go episode by episode. But at the beginning, cast a couple people so that you don't need crafties on set for your vertical series pilot, okay? This is out of your pocket. This is yours. This is your MVP. This is your pilot. This is your little Frankenstein that you're going to use to build on top of this and roll out and build audience. You don't want to spend a gazillion dollars on cast and locations. Make a process you can repeat. I've probably said that 7 times already, but it's very important, okay? If you can't repeat the process, this is going to be a one and done. You're not going to have a chance to grow an audience by putting out one episode and hoping and praying. This is a volume game. You're going to need to keep rolling out new episodes of this thing so that people come to understand it. Some people are going to find the whole series by watching episode 5. Some people are going to find the whole series by watching episode 1. But you're going to have put out enough episodes so that people will come back and say, oh, I want to see the whole catalog. Lastly, always prioritize the audience and the platforms. Meaning, again, you don't have 15 seconds to get people's attention for this. This is not like people sitting in a theater who have already paid to watch what you're going to put in front of them. This is people who are scrolling through a bunch of junk, who have many choices as to what they're going to spend the next 20 seconds looking at. Your thing has to grab their attention. It has to grab their attention. It has to almost call them by name and get them to watch and stay with you, all right? And lastly, the platforms, I said. Remember to prioritize the platforms. We are shooting these vertically because we are accepting that this is where people discover stuff, is in short form videos shot vertically so they can scroll through, which means respect the platform. Shoot it vertically. Don't use fancy equipment because it might not even compress in a way that makes it visually that makes it work visually on the screen, okay? Don't exhaust yourself trying to landscape shots and going crazy with color correction. Unless you have those skills so down to a science that you are able to do that stuff in your sleep, do not waste your time because you're gonna have to make many of these to have a chance. That's how these platforms work. All right, if you wanna know more, I'm gonna say it one more time. Go to my Instagram at Chad Sand, click the link in my bio, and sign up for my webinar, How to Launch Your Vertical Series, which is Friday, January 16th at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, or you can find that same link in the caption of this video. And of course, subscribe right now to this thing. Send this to your friends who are thinking about making one of these things, and I'll be back with more information. Goodbye.